Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to read Class 7 SST Part History, Chapter number 1 When, Where, and How, Part 2. In the last video, we have read about the different divisions of history as well as the medieval history. In that video, we also learn about different Rajput's family, as they belong from the different clans, as well as we have also read about the sources which help us to know about our past, that is the literary sources and the archaeological sources. In the last video, we have read different things about the archaeological sources, included the monuments and building, coins, painting and sculptures, etc. So in this video we will go about the literary sources that is found in the past and that help us to know about our history. Now let us begin with the literary sources. Literary sources are the written sources like biographies, autobiographies, court chronicles, historical accounts, that is given by pilgrims, traders, or the royal ambassadors. So basically, the written accounts that we found, that is the literary sources. And from where do we get these literary sources? By the biographies, autobiographies, court chronicles, and the account of different account from the pilgrims, that is given by pilgrims, traders, and the royal ambassadors. Now, generally the literary sources are categorized into indigenous and foreign writing. How they are categorized? Because of the some writers, those who belong to the India, and some writers, those who come from the another part of the world outside of the India. So they have written several things regarding the Indian history. In that they have also included that is the religion, economic, politics, and the culture that was prevailed during the medieval period of India. Many languages were used to write in the medieval period like Persian, Sanskrit, Arabic, Urdu, and many other regional languages. So while writing about the history, people used to write in the different languages. So what is the reason behind writing in the different languages? Because the people can understand it easily in their own languages, so the people used to write those things in their own languages. Now, during the early medieval period, paper was still not in the use in the Indian subcontinent. So this was the time when probably paper was not in use on a large scale, or it was not that much developed that the people could use paper for the written work. But in the late medieval period, the paper was now came to be known for the writing purposes, and people started using the paper for the writing something on it. But when people, those who belongs to the early medieval period, how they were write? So they used to write on the palm leaves, bark of birch trees, animal skulls, different platforms, the metals that they used to write. So this was the base that was used for writing in the early medieval period and before that also. But in the later medieval period, people started writing on the paper. Now, in the next slide, we have to read about the division of literary sources. So, like in the archaeological sources, we have read the different division So likewise, we have to also read about the division of the literary sources as well. First of all, we have to know about what is scholar. Yeah, who is scholar basically? So a scholar is a person who studies and has a lot of knowledge about the particular subject. Means they are the good at their subject, they are having a more knowledge about their subject, they are known as the scholars. Now the next is chronicles. So chronicle is what? Chronicle is word the basically detailed and registered court account in the continuous manner through a particular order of time. So basically chronicles were the detailed account of particular kingdom or particular kings. So the that was written and it had the detailed information about the kingdom and the rulers. Now let us start the divisions of the literary sources. The first division it is categorized, that is the court chronicles. So court chronicle is what? Generally the court chronicles or the accounts that is written by the scholars about the kingdom and their country and the living condition of the common people called the court chronicles. Basically court chronicle is what? When the people started writing in any court or in any kingdom, they used to write about the king as well as its administration as well as the people, those who are living in that kingdom. They write all those details, all those information in their chronicles. So that is the court chronicles basically. Now we have to see some examples of the court chronicles, that is Abd al-Qadir Badayuni. He wrote the Mantakhaf ut Tawarikh, that is the selection of chronicles or the Tarikh Badayuni. So in this Tarikh Badayuni, he wrote different things like this work is in the 3 volume basically. It is a history of the Muslims of India. Muslims of India, basically the Mughal emperor they are talking about. The first volume contains an account of Babur and Humayun. Means the first volume having the information regarding the Babur and the Humayun. The second volume contains the Akbar reasons up to 1595, and it contains the Akbar's administrative measures, what he has made, he took the measures for the administration purpose, and it also explains about the religious and his conduct, basically what he has done for the religion. So everything it is written in the second volume of the Tarikh Badayuni. And the third volume, this third volume describes the life of the work of the Muslim religion figures, scholars, physicians and poets. So this third volume contains the Muslim religious figures, means that in the rule of Akbar, people, those who are at the highest post in the religion, Muslim religion, and also the scholars, though who scholar I had explained, they are having the sufficient knowledge, a lot of knowledge regarding any subject. Physicians, the hakims or the doctors that we can say that help Akbar, and poets, those who wrote the poems regarding the Mughal Empire or the Mughal kingdom. So basically this is the 3 volume containing different sections of the Tarikh Badayuni. Now Ziauddin Barani's Tarikh Firoz Shahi. So Ziauddin Barani was a Muslim political thinker of the Delhi Sultanate, and he composed the Tarikh Firoz Shahi. So what was there in the Tarikh Firoz Shahi? It covers the Indo-Persian historiography, in which he explained about the reason of the Ghiyasuddin Balban and the reason of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, but only the initial stage of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq. It's about 6 years he wrote about the Firoz Shah Tughlaq in the Tarikh Firoz Shahi. So basically the Ziauddin Barani explained about a lot of things regarding the Delhi Sultanate people, and he also explained about the different religion like Hindu and Muslim religion, and he wrote a lot of things, his own views on those religions in the this Firoz Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi. Now, Ras Tarangini. So Ras Tarangini is what? It is also known as the river of kings. Basically, this is the flow of kings, means the list of kings. Yeah, means one king is after one king there is another king. The line of the kings, basically, it was explained in the Ras Tarangini, and it was in the poem form. It was in the poem form, that is uh, the metrical, legendary, and historical chronicle of the northwest Indian subcontinent. So, particularly, it was the explanation of the kings of Kashmir. So, Kashmir, the person who wrote the Ras Tarangani, he explained about the kings of Kashmir, and it was written in the Sanskrit language by a Kashmiri Brahmin, that his name was Kalhan, and it was written in the 11th century. So basically, Kalhan explained in the Ras Tarangani about the series of kings during the medieval period. So these were the information, these were the basically literary sources that help us to know about the Indian history, medieval history basically. Now move to the next, that is the about the historian. So many historians of the medieval period appointed a historian in their courts to record the event of their rule. These historians traveled with the ruler and recorded the events. So what is the work of historians? They travel with the rulers, and as well as they record the things that they observed, and this helps us to know about the people, those who belongs to their kingdom, and how they live, how they survive during their reasons. So they wrote all these things in their books, different books. So there is one historian that we found during the Akbar reign. It was Abul Fazl. So Abul Fazl was the historian or biographer and the author of Akbarnama. So basically, Akbarnama is what? It is the description of Akbar's reign. So the Akbarnama is also contains 3 volumes, and these 3 volumes having the different knowledge about the Akbar reign. Abul Fazl was also one of the 9 jewels or the Navratnas of the Akbar royal court. So basically, he was also there in the 9 jewels of the Akbar, and the Akbarnama, which was written by the Abul Fazl, was in the Persian language. What is the reason behind it? The reason is that the Persian was the literary language of the Mughals. People if they have to keep the record of anything, so they used to write all those things in the Persian language. So that is why this Persian was the literary language of the Mughals. So Abul Fazl's Akbarnama, having the 3 volumes, and in the 3rd volume it is called the Ain-e-Akbari, and in the Ain-e-Akbari he described about the administrative system of Akbar's, as well as his household works, army, revenue, and the geography of the empire, basically the extent of the empire of the Akbar region. So this was also the historians, people used to keep the historians for the achievements, for the writing of their achievements in the previous time. Now not only the historians of those who belongs to the particular kingdom, people, a number of foreign travelers, those who came from another country, the scholars, the pilgrims, and the royal ambassadors, they visited in the different courts and during the medieval period. So foreign travelers means those who come from the foreign, means they come from the another country. Scholars, those scholars that I explained, the people who are having the knowledge of anything, the perfect knowledge of anything, that they come from the another country. Pilgrims, Pilgrims is what? The person who went for the pilgrim. That person is went to pilgrimage, religious places, and he went somewhere and started knowing about that place and writing about that place. That the pilgrims. And the royal ambassador. The ambassador, those who came from the some royal court, some another country's king sent them to know about the information regarding the regarding any kingdom. So these people visited India, and they also had written a lot of things in their book that we'll read in the next slide. So they wrote about the rulers and his administration, as well as they focus on the life of the common people. So these travelers, these different people, those who come from the another country, they also wrote about the rulers and the management that the rulers used to do, and also they focus on the common people. So they wrote several things regarding the people as well as the king and his administration. One of them was Ibn Battuta. So Ibn Battuta was the Moroccan traveler and scholar. He visited India during the rule of Tughlaq and wrote the Rihla. So Ibn Battuta was person who belongs to the Morocco, and he came there and wrote the Rihla. So basically Ibn Battuta wrote about the geography of India in his book Rihla. So he wrote the extent of the geographical feature of the India from in his book Rihla while the visit of India in the medieval period. One more, that is Al-Biruni. So Al-Biruni wrote the Tarikh-e-Al-Hind, and it's about 1017, and he was accompanied by the Muhammad Ghaznavi when he came to India for plundering for the plundering purpose of India, and he wrote several things in his book. And also this was the finest foreign account of the medieval period, that is written by the Al-Biruni, that is the Tarikh-e-Al-Hind. Now let us know more about the written document that we found for the history of our medieval period. Now let us see some of the autobiographies and biographies. So what is autobiography? Autobiography is what? It is written by itself regarding their own lives. Like if you write about yourself and your achievements, your failures, and the whole life, that is the autobiography. But if somebody else is write on your life, that is the that is the biography basically. And if somebody write about his own life, his own achievements, his own value, that is the autobiography. So basically autobiographies, examples during the medieval period that I have written, that is the Babur. He wrote the Babarnama, that is also known as Tujh-e Babari. Jahangir, he wrote the Tujh-e Jahangiri. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he wrote the Fateh-e-Firoz Shahi. So there were lot of things that is written in they wrote in their autobiographies. So basically Babur wrote all those the detailed information about the flora and fauna of the Hindustan, where Tujh-e Jahangiri provides the court politics during his period, and also Firoz Shah Tughlaq provide the detailed information of the India during his reign. And many more autobiographies were written during those periods. Now moving to the biographies. So this was the detailed account of person's life, and that is written by someone else. Like Prithviraj Raso, it is written by Chand Bardai. So it was the explanation of the Prithviraj Chauhan and his conquest and his administration. Humayun Nama, it is written by Gulbadan Begum. She had also explained a lot about Humayun. She was her stepsister. Akbar Nama, that is written by Abul Fazl, that I had explained. Ras Tarangani, that I also had explained. about the kings of the Kashmir and their administration. So these are the example of autobiography and biographies. Now, writing of the foreign travelers. So basically, people, those who come from any other part of the world to India, and they started living and they started writing about the Indian culture. So here I am giving you some names that they belong from the different countries, and they came to India and write about the Indian subcontinent. So that Marco Polo, he came from Italy, 1288 to 1292. He was there in India, and he came into the Pandya kingdom. Like Ibn Battuta, he came from Morocco, 1333 to 1342, in the region of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Niccolo Conti, he came from Italy, 1420 to 1422, in the Vijayanagara Empire. Athanasius Nikitin from the Russia, he came in 1470 to 1474. He was there in the Muhammad III Bahmani. Duarte Barbosa, he came from Portugal, 1516 to 1518, in the Vijayanagara Empire. Domingo Pace, he also came from Portugal, and he was also in the Vijayanagara Empire. Ralph Fish, he was from the England, and he came in India in 1585 to 1591 in the region of Akbar. William Hawkins, he also belongs to England, and he came in 1608 to 1612 during the region of Jahangir. Sir Thomas Roe, he was also belongs to England. He came in the region of Jahangir in the year of 1615 to 1619. Tavernier from France, he came in 1641 to 1687, the region of Jahangir and Shah Jahan. So these were the foreign travelers. They came in different times, and they also provide the valuable sources for the history of the medieval period. They wrote a lot of things regarding the Indian subcontinent basically. Now let us see about the people. Some people, there's like Athanasius Nikitin, that he visited India and he wrote all those things in his book, that is the Journey Beyond the Three Sea. And the Sidi Ali Rais, he was from the Ottoman Empire, and he was the admiral over there. Admiral means he belongs to the naval group, and he wrote all the troubles, as well as India and the other countries, in his book Mirat ul Mamalik, or the Mirror of Countries. So he went to different places like Southeast Europe, Western Asia, Northern Africa. So he went different places and write different things in his book, that is the Mirat ul Mamalik, or the Mirror of the Country. Now move to the religious literature. So in the in the starting of the chapter, I had explained that this medieval period was consist of the different movement, that is Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. So this was the time when these two movements led to the writing of lot of literature. That was the time of lot of literature work by the Bhakti saints and as well as the Sufi saints. So we have to see in this topic. So basically the medieval period of Indian history was also the period of Bhakti and Sufi movement that I told. That movement brought the new forms of religious expression among the Muslim and Hindus. So this was a new form. So basically Bhakti is what? The devotion to the God. Instead of having the this sacrificial, that is yagna and more things, the chanting, the mantras and many more things. Beyond this, only the chanting of name of a god that led to the reach to the God, that help us to reach to the God. And in the Sufis also, the chanting of Muhammad, and it led to the reach to the God. So this was the simplest form of devotion, that is the Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement. Now let us see. The Sufi were the mystics the spiritual person who called as a liberalism in the Islam. So they liberalized the Islamism and they emphasize on the equality that is based on universal love. So they always said that the people are all people are equal and there is no discrimination, there is no differentiation between the different religion. Everybody, every religion has a one path, every religion has a one aim and having a different path. So they believe in the universal love, they believe in the equality. Why bhakti saint also, it was transformed the devotion of God as a bhakti means, and it helps us to attain the God by the chanting, then only by the chanting of the God name. So this is the path that they followed in the medieval period. So this was the period when these saints were used to write the different literatures in their region, and they use the different languages. And why they use the different language, the reason is behind that. The regional languages or the different languages they use, like the regional language, the area in which they are living, the regional languages they speak, in those languages they have wrote different things like poem, song, doha. So they used to write all those things in the regional languages basically. Now I have pasted two pics of the some of the saints that they belongs to the Bhakti saint and the Sufi saints, the teaching of the Vallabhacharya and the great work of Amir Khusro. Now this was the time when the many more religious texts like Ramayana, Mahabharata and many more religious texts, Upanishad and Purans, that were started translating into the another languages. So why they are translating all those things into another language? It helps us to know about our the regional religious literature. So basically, if we know if we're not knowing the Sanskrit language or Persian language, so the translation of these books into the common languages or the regional languages is it helps them people to know about those religious literatures in their own languages. So this work is done by these Sufi saints and the Bhakti saints that make the reach to the people of these different religious literature. Now I'm going to give you some of the names of the Sufi saints as well as Bhakti saints. Start with the Sufi saints like Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti 1143 to 1234, Nizamuddin Aulia 1235 to 1325, Bu Ali Shah Qalandar 1292 to 1324, Amir Khusro, Bahauddin Zakaria, etc. Bhakti saints like Ramanuja, that is 1060 to 1118, Nimbarka, Vallabhacharya 1479 to 1546, Namdev, Chaitanya 1485 to 1534, Mirabai 1498 to 1546, Tulsidas, Surdas, many more saints were there, those who wrote the different religious literature in their time. Now moving to the regional literature. So when a religious literature was developing, when these Bhakti saints and Sufi saints were moving one place to another, they also encouraging the people, those places in which these saints are moving. So this help to start writing about the regional literatures. Like they have started writing different form of stories, poem, drama. So this was the impact, it was indirect impact of these Bhakti movements and Sufi movement. People started writing a lot of things and they started expressing their view to the literature. So in the form of story, poem and drama they started writing. So this period was very famous for the writing purposes, writing literatures in the different languages like Marathi, Urdu, Tamil, Persian, Kannada, Arabic, as well as some European languages as well. Like those who come from the foreign, they started living in the India, and after learning some languages, they started converting all those things, they started translating all those things into their own languages. Now let me give you example of some of the regional languages, that is the dialect we know, that is Awadhi or Braj. And the main work that is done in Awadhi was like Malik Muhammad Jaisi's Padmavat and Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas. So this is just a small example of the Awadhi dialect, as well as the Braj dialect that is written by the Tulsidas, Vinay Patrika and Surdas. He wrote the Sur Sagar. So these were the different regional languages that is used for writing the regional literature basically. One more name is there, that is Amir Khusro. So he was a Persian literature expert and also he was musician too, and he composed different qawwals, tarana, sohla, and he also formed the riddles, that is the paheli. So these are the examples of the regional literatures that were done in the medieval period. So these regional literatures also provide us detailed information regarding our past during the medieval period. So basically, whether they are the religious literature, whether they are the regional literature, they all provide us the information in the different language, in the different areas regarding our history in the medieval period. Now there you can see the Malik Muhammad Jaisi's Padmavat is there, and this was written by the Malik Muhammad Jaisi in the Awadhi language. Now move to the calligraphy. So calligraphy is what? It is a basically of art of writing alphabet in the artistic manner. So if I tell you on the blackboard, you the teacher or you people used to write in the this cursive handwriting, and you started making it more decorative in your copy or in your assignment. So that is the calligraphy, basically writing alphabet in an artistic manner in using of some color pencils, some sketch. So this was also done in the past, in the history also. So it was common feature of the manuscripts. So when people used to write the manuscript during the medieval period, they started the calligraphic work. So they decorate all these calligraphic work with the floral and geometric patterns. So basically, you have seen in some of the calligraphic work, they started decorating with the floral design, the geometric pattern, and these not only done on the books, these were done on also on the monuments. If I say and on the walls of the Taj Mahal, there were several calligraphic works were done, and these shows the development of the calligraphic work during the reign of the Mughal Empire. So it's not like that the calligraphy was originated by the Mughal emperor, but it was present in India, but it was not in common use. It was not in use basically. But due to the influence of the Persian or the Mughal emperor, this calligraphy work had reached its peak during their period. So basically, calligraphy written on books or written on the monuments that also provide the detailed information regarding the Indian history. Now one more topic is there, that is the archival records. So apart from the various literary sources that we had discussed above, the government's documents or the archive in the form of royal firmans or the decrees that is issued by the rulers, as well as treaties or agreement between the different kings, and the chronicles of the court and the record of the revenue. It also serves as an important source of information for this period. So basically, archival records that is given by the that shows the that give us the history of the medieval period. Like if there is a treaty, if there is an agreement between the two kings, it has also been recorded. If it is a farman or it is a royal orders, it is also written in the documents. So these farman or these treaties were also provide us the detailed information regarding the Indian history. So these are the things that we have read, that is known as the literary sources that help us to know about our history. So this topic is over. In the next video we will continue the next topic. So if you have any confusion regarding this, you can ask in the comment, as well as I hope you all are writing in the copy and making some points regarding these chapters. Okay, thank you students.